Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here in Non-Toxic Environments Live. My name is Andy Pace. First of all, thank you so much for allowing me to take last week off. I haven't been sick since November of 2020 when I had COVID, and I had it bad. In the first year, I was out for about a week and a half. Couldn't taste, couldn't smell, couldn't wake up. Essentially, I was on the couch for about 4 days straight. And then I got through that, and my antibody level has been somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,600 to 2,000% higher than just being positive since then. And so I haven't gotten the thing. I mean, I barely got a pimple on my face since then. So I felt pretty good. And then all of a sudden last week I got hit with the flu, and it was like a 2-day flu, and got back into the office late last week, and here we are. So thank you so much for allowing me to take that time off. Apparently I needed it. And so gratefully, and our guest today was okay with canceling quickly and coming back again this week. And so I'm so happy that she was able to join us this week, because I didn't want to miss this conversation. Therese Forton-Barnes, known as T, at the Green Living Gurus. I always love talking with other people who are doing kind of what I do, but more so in a holistic manner. I focus on architecture and construction. That's my forte. That's kind of where I stop. I mean, if you ask me about health, you ask me about nutrition, you ask me about other things that I'm just not comfortable with, I can be, probably talk enough to be dangerous about that. And so I'd rather leave it for others who have been studying this for a lot longer than I've been looking at it. So I'd like to introduce to the panel here, Therese T. Thank you very much for coming in today and to talking with all of us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm glad that you're back on your feet.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of vitamin D, a lot of other things that I take here on a regular basis to try to keep myself healthy, but apparently I just haven't been taking enough of it. So please introduce yourself and tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so I am T, as you said, Therese Forton-Barnes. I live in Buffalo, New York, born and raised here. And I want to just take you back a little bit, because it's important to understand how I got to where I am today. Yeah. And because when I was brought up in a household of all organic food, I'm talking the 60s and 70s, when it was McDonald's and Burger King. And my mother, not my father, I can't give him any of the credit. I give him the credit for the plants behind me. He has the green thumb. But eating wise and cleaning wise, she was so ahead of her time, and wanted to keep us away from any toxins, environmental toxins. No cleaning. We cleaned every Saturday with vinegar and soap and water, and we do not need Windex. We do not need all these chemicals that people are using to clean their houses with. And for that matter, the food, we shopped at a little co-op, and my mother worked in there. And I started realizing we were kind of a little bit of the abnormal at the time. I'd come home to hummus and stuffed grape leaves and carrots and apples and other things. And my friends were going to McDonald's and getting pizza. And my mother was like, no, you're not eating that way. We don't, trying to tell us, and all organic too. So that's the 60s, 70s. So when I went to college in 1981, I went for a major in business and a minor in health. And I wanted to open up a big supermarket so everybody could see how healthy this is, and you don't need Burger King, you don't need McDonald's, you don't need processed foods. And that was a uphill battle, believe me. It was crazy, even trying to get people to see our point of view. But I went there. I got my 4-year degree, and the business is Whole Foods. I had nothing to do with it, unfortunately, because I was also a party planner. I was always the one planning all the parties in high school and in college. And when I came out of college, it was a huge industry. I got hired in the party planning industry. And it was just coming to be in in the mid 80s. And I ended up forming my own business, and I've planned 700 events, and I've been doing it for 37 years. And I've done almost every event here in Buffalo. But through the course of those 37 years, my true passion has always been health, and always been trying to help people keep toxic chemicals out of their homes, out of their lives. And people would come to me, especially cancer patients. It's always when people are sick that they're like, can you help me? Which is unfortunate. But those times are turning right now. People are starting to realize you have to prevent these chemicals from being in your lives before you even get sick. So I did it for 37 years. I studied, I took courses, I was constantly learning more. But over those 37 years, I started seeing that the chemicals were getting worse and worse and worse, and cancer was getting worse and worse and worse, and kids. And I mean, it just made me crazy that people had no idea about how bad all these toxins are for us. And they don't believe, but they see marketing for all these products. They have no idea what they're putting on their skin, what they're eating. And it was sad to me. So 3 years ago, I said, that's it. I have to start doing what I really set my life really out to do. And that was to help people avoid environmental toxins, especially in their home. And that's where I am today. So 3 years ago, I started Green Living Gurus. My sister is sort of a silent partner behind the scenes. She's got a very bad autoimmune illness, and that we haven't quite figured out, but it might be related to her blood. Anyways, so here I am. I have a podcast. I have a product line that I launched last year. I'm trying to get that up. It's actually right over my shoulder, Tease Organic. So and helping people learn to read labels, and to learn that you do not need to use dryer sheets and all these other things, products that are out there that are potentially polluting your home and your body.
It's so many interesting things you said in that introduction. Thank you.
Yes.
And one of the couple of things that stand out to me is that what I hear from customers all the time and clients all over the world is that, as you say, they never really got into this until they had to, because of either their own personal health or a family member's health. And right now it's a lot of it with kids, and kids having all these, the staggering rise in asthma rates across the country, across the world. But you lived the life of just eating healthy, eating organic, just living in a more healthy lifestyle. And so you had that experience, and then you had the experience of being in a completely different industry, and then just kind of coming back to your roots, saying that, this is what my passion is. This is what I got to do. And so I looked at, I grew up in this business. I'd started at 22 years old, started a green building supply company. Didn't have the life experience that you had. I just kind of figured the things out as I go. So I feel like between you and I, we've kind of captured a wide range of life experiences. And so how has what you learned in your prior career really guided you to what you're doing now?
My prior career is my event party planning career.
Yeah.
Uh, it's interesting because once a party planner, you're always a party planner, for that matter. So whatever I do, it's always done in a way where you have to dot I's and cross your T's. And everything I do, I feel like is an event, no matter what it is. I probably drive my husband crazy, but that's how I operate. And it's organizational skills, but it's I've had to deal with so many people along the way, and I'm definitely a personality, a people person, and an extrovert, for that matter. So it's I had this long career in party planning, but I feel like I'm back to being a freshman. I might be a sophomore, junior by now in this industry, because it's really getting people to understand what you are really your what your topic is and what you're trying to convey to them.
Sure.
It's a very hard, very sensitive subject. People don't want to be threatened, and they sometimes doubt you. So no matter what, I'm always trying to plan it in a way that they can see the whole big picture. But getting them involved, it's getting people involved in their own health. And you have to really be the one to take charge of your health. Anything you do, anything you eat, you have to, it's your body, and you have to pay attention to everything you use, everything.
Yeah.
Because once you walk out the door, you don't have a say.
Right.
What the air is doing, what you breathe in. But inside your house and what you are doing, you have a say. And I try to get people just to see that they can plan their own health, and that they can take charge of their health. And we need to take charge. Doctors, we can't do without doctors, of course. But if you take charge of your health, you might not need that doctor so much.
So it's interesting. I'm going to be speaking at the Real Truth About Health conference in a couple of weeks, and it's a 2-hour presentation that I'm doing. And anybody who is listening, who has heard me talk, knows that I can talk for 2 hours without a problem. It's a new audience, and one of the things that I've been focusing on in my preparation is, in order to truly understand where we are right now and how to move forward, we have to dig deep into why the problem started in the first place. And so you alluded to something just before. I grew up in the 70s. I grew up, when I remember as a kid, especially in summer, because I live in Wisconsin. You're in Buffalo, so you get footage of snow every year, every winter. And for us, as soon as like November 15th hits, it's cold until like today. And so as a kid, though, in summertime, I would wake up, get out of bed, hop on my bike, and I was gone until about 9 o'clock at night. And we were at the playground, we were playing baseball, we were fishing, we were doing biking, all this stuff. We were spending 90% of our lives outdoors back in the day. And now things are different. Now we're spending so much time inside of our home. And with the pandemic, it was even worse. Much more time inside of our homes. Between 1970 and 1990, the explosion in the building industry with chemicals and new processes and plastics and tighter air and so on and so on and so on. It's just, if we look back now, which I'll do in my presentation, it's plain as day what we're doing to ourselves. And but while that was occurring, we didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. And if every person had an indoor air quality monitor in their home, I think people would be making choices a lot better by what they're bringing into their home. And as well as I do, as you just touched on, the components that you bring, whether it's paint, whether it's furniture, what you're cleaning with, shower curtains, all of that can outgas into your home that people are breathing in. And as best as I do, it's that these homes are airtight. And the EPA and the CDC have claimed that homes are somewhere between 2 to 100 times, I think it's 2 or 5, 10, it's a crazy numbers. It depends on where you live, more polluted than the outdoor air.
Yeah.
And I have an indoor air quality monitor, but I've taken it to people's homes and I see what kind of air they're breathing in. And and it's sad to me, I have to go around their house and like get rid of the candle, get rid of those cleaning supplies, get rid of the perfume, get rid of the laundry detergent. All of this is adding to their indoor air quality, in addition to all these other products. But helping people and getting people to realize that's the hard part, because it's overwhelming. And to people to really look at it. So we try to get everybody to take little baby steps on that path of detoxing your home. I know people that want to do it, like get rid of everything. I've talked to people like that have done that, and I've helped people. But I try to encourage people even in a little bit of at a time. So, and going back to COVID, and then they're spraying all these chemicals because they've got to kill the virus in their home, and all these more chemicals in their home. And I'm like, oh, and hand sanitizers, don't get me going on that.
Right.
You're putting chemicals all over your skin. And washing your hands with just plain soap and water is just perfectly fine. But a lot of that is coming from the pharmaceuticals industry and the chemical industry, unfortunately, and they are pounding us with this information, and people believe it, unfortunately.
Well, I think what the pandemic has really proved to everybody is that common sense is still not very common anymore.
Yeah,
And
true.
so, I understand it was a scary time and so forth, but that's a whole show in and of itself right there. But I'll tell you that I read stories from articles based upon research that was done years ago that said the average home has between 10 and 15,000 chemicals in the air just from the construction process. All right.
Oh gosh.
So you build a new home, let's say on the low end, you have 10,000 chemicals. Let's say on the low end, you have about 200 gallons of moisture in the air just from the construction process itself, from the drywall and drywall mud curing and the paint curing, the concrete curing, and then just the weather while you're building. And all that moisture is in the air, and then it tries to get out somehow. And because homes are being built tighter and tighter, there's no way for that moisture to get out naturally. So it ends up getting into the walls, and that's where you start to develop a mold problem. There's a variety of reasons why this happens. But again, you look at the timeline between 1970 and 1990, and it's like plain as day why we have the problems that we have. I think that there's a problem with, as consumers, we don't want to admit that there's issues. And so it's a head in the sand mentality is probably the easiest way to go. It's the safest way to go. And then, as you said, a lot of people they'll probably call you up and hire you to clean out their house, and they just want to try to get rid of everything. And then they're almost taking it to an unhealthy degree of trying to rid their homes of everything. At some point, you have to say, listen, you've done a lot already. This is great. You can't, you have to allow yourself the grace to say you can only do so much.
Right.
And you're also going to, drive the family members in the home crazy too, if you're trying to do things perfectly. So there's a fine balance there.
Yes, absolutely. And, I hate the terminology, you pick your poison. I'm going to color my hair. I'm 60 years old. I don't want gray hair, but I'm going to color it with the best possible product that doesn't use the amount of chemicals that are out there. So, people can't give up certain things, but you try to do your best. And you try to do your best. And the greatest thing about it is once you start reducing your chemical exposure and intake and on your body is so amazing that those chemicals will eventually come. I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them eventually will excrete out of your body. And there's been lots of case studies that have shown how that happens. So everybody can do better by paying more attention to labels, and that's one of the biggest things.
Certainly. And so, and that's the other thing too. It's like the body is far more resilient than we think it is. There are, of course, exceptions. We do a lot of work with people with, chronic inflammation and mast cell activation. And, I had a client just about 6 months ago who was trying to do a home remodeling, and she slowly started developing these extreme sensitivities during the project, to the point where we couldn't even find materials that were safe enough for her for some of the basic materials. I mean, some of the products that we deal with, rich light products for countertops, even solid stainless steel for countertops, she would have a reaction to.
Oh, wow.
Which is, I've never heard anybody react to stainless steel before. I mean, but I learn every day from clients that, okay, that now there's somebody new that is having some situations that I don't understand. But it really is troublesome. And I think that, as somebody gets inundated with a load of chemical exposure, at some point it's like the body starts to give up a little bit,
Yeah.
and then it becomes also a very mentally challenging, because now you sit and ruminate over the fact that I cannot expose myself to anything new. I don't have any choices anymore, and then that starts to cause problems in and of itself. So
it's a huge, huge problem. And I follow a lot of these forums that are MCS, multiple chemical sensitivity. I read all of these people, and it's more common than we all know or hear about. And the pain and suffering people are going through, that they feel like they can't even leave their homes.
yeah,
Some of them, it's
yeah,
very sad, and it's getting worse,
it,
so
it's getting worse, and it's also, I mean, I
getting
was
better.
doing a show a couple weeks ago, or an interview for a show, and one of the questions was, do you think chemical sensitivity is on the rise? I think that the um, ability for people to acknowledge their own chemical sensitivities and actually have it diagnosed because of an underlying condition is on the rise.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know if more people, a higher percentage of the population, have chemical sensitivity than 10 years ago. I think, though, that there's more people allowing themselves to say there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, this is just anecdotal based upon my experiences, mainly because there aren't any good research studies on how many people actually have MCS. It's been estimated about 25% of the population has
Wow.
a chemical sensitivity, whether they know it or not. And
Yeah.
so, for example, you get somebody who walks through a department store and they avoid the perfume aisle because they know they're going to get a headache.
Yep.
Well, that's a chemical sensitivity. Somebody who uses a certain type of soap or shampoo, and every time they use it, they get a skin reaction. That's a chemical sensitivity. But now, if you were to ask them, do you have chemical sensitivities? They'd say no.
Yeah. It's not well known, but it's very 25%. I wouldn't be shocked if it's even higher.
Yeah, that's true. And so, but I think that more and more people today, specifically because of the pandemic, have decided that, you know what, maybe now's the time that I actually acknowledge the fact that I have this, and there is more information out there to help us, and to talk about it. My little circle community here of a few hundred people, it's fantastic. There are millions across over the world that would love to have access to something like this, to be able to bounce ideas off of, and what works, what doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
and have real conversation about it. I think that I'm seeing more and more of that in the industry, and I'm very, very happy about that.
I agree. I am too. And it's people like you and I and all the others that are connecting like this, talking about it and sharing our stories and sharing other people's stories for that matter. And I feel like we're gaining ground on it. I get very disappointed when I walk through like the Tampa airport, which I recently did, and they're spraying chemicals through the vents, because this is a big thing to that it's a association with like happiness. If you're at airport, they're
Mm.
doing it in bathrooms at different I walked in there and they have this sprays going. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like we can't win. But it's the fragrance industry, specifically the fragrance industry, is so powerful, and so much money is thrown into their marketing that we have to keep fighting our end of things, and hopefully things will start turning a little bit more, because it's really the fragrance part of all these products. That's my number one thing that I tell everybody. If you don't do anything, or if you don't want to eat non-organic food, do not buy anything that has the word fragrance on it. And fragrance is comprised of many different chemicals. Many are carcinogens. Sometimes benzene is in there, formaldehyde. You're putting this on your skin, on your scalp. You're shaving with it. You're putting it underneath your armpits. You're lathering up your body with it with sunscreen. And they do not have to tell you what makes up that word fragrance. And it's a law from the 1940s when Chanel No. 5 went to our government and said, we don't want to tell you what's in our perfume. And they said, all right, put the word fragrance on there and you don't have to tell what's in your perfume. And that is a law to this day, that you can make a product, put the word fragrance on there. You don't have to tell what's in it, and you can plop it into the market. And it's unreal how many products have the word fragrance on it. So that's if anybody can get anything away from my conversation here, or doubt it, what I preach quite a bit is the word fragrance, and you can save a lot of chemicals entering your body from that one way alone.
Well, you're definitely speaking my language there. That's just excellent information. I think that on that note, people, most people who are interested in learning more about what's in a product, specifically when it comes to like household goods, think that you can request the safety data sheet of a product. Doesn't happen much in consumer goods. It happens more in like building materials and so forth. They'll request the safety data sheet and to see if there's anything what they feel is hazardous in there, and if it's and they have this inaccurate understanding that if anything's in that it's hazardous, has to be listed, and that is absolutely not true. Like the word fragrance, with a safety data sheet, only ingredients that are a hazardous in cleanup and exposure to workers need to be listed if the ingredients make up more than 1% of the volume, and or they're not part of what's called a proprietary blend. And so somebody looks at a MSDS sheet for a cleaner, an industrial cleaner, and says, this looks clean to me, I can use it. And then the whole household has reactions to it. It is, driven out of the home. It's proving the fact that these safety data sheets are completely irrelevant. They're designed for if there's a truckload of it that spills over on the highway, how do you clean it up and how do you protect the people who have to deal with it? Has absolutely nothing to do with living with it and using it in your home. And so that's one interesting thing. And so fragrance, the word fragrance, it's like saying, I don't know, just make up a word. It's like saying the word green or eco-friendly. It means nothing.
Right. Nothing. We call it the other F word.
Nice. I like that a lot. So let me ask you, you've been living the organic life yourself since you're a kid. Has it gotten easier for consumers, or is it getting more confusing because of the greenwashing that every manufacturer and producer seems to be hitting us with?
I think it's gotten easier because there's so many more products on the line, but double-edged sword, just like you said, greenwashing is at an all-time high right now. And just like the word fragrance, these companies are starting to realize, oh no, people are catching on to the word fragrance. So they're going to say on the package that, oh, it's essential oils. We use essential oils, and this, lemon scented with essential oils. And that's great and everything. But the problem is it only has to have 2% essential oils in that product, and they can say that they're using essential oils. Well, meanwhile, they're still using all the fragrance. Unreal. So that's greenwashing. And they're coming up with these packaging. Somebody gave me like last year or something. Oh yeah, I thought it was okay. It had aloe in it. No, if aloe is another word, or the word natural. If it has the word natural on it, you probably don't want to buy it. Yeah. So it's hard. So I feel so bad for consumers that they are getting duped on this. And I always say, if they could take all the products that are in the store, wherever, and turn them around, and don't let people look at the front, let's have them look at the back, then I have a feeling they'd start realizing that, they'd have to read the ingredients, not what it says on the cover. So it's just something that people need to educate themselves. Just like I said before, you have to take control of everything you do. The amount of people that send me, what do you think about this product? And they send me the front of the bottle. I'm like, I don't want to see the front. I want to see the back of the bottle. And typically, I don't even read the ingredients. And I said, that's it. Fragrance, get rid of it. And it's just mind blowing what's out there. But, you know, I always picture the people at these companies sitting around a table. Okay, how can we get them to believe that this is a healthy product? Because we see the numbers on all these products, the healthy products, the real healthy products are just huge, and organic has just grown into record numbers. And they're sitting around there trying to figure out how to package it, green or brown, or we recycle, or, all the sustainable. So it's just about being aware and being conscious of it and following a lot. There's so many great people like you and I out there doing so many wonderful things. And thanks for social media. That has helped tremendously, because we can grow our businesses that way and get people to trust us, as opposed to trusting these companies that are trying to make them think their products are natural.
Well, and that's interesting. It's kind of a double-edged sword as well. In the world of, online influencers, it's really difficult, because I get calls all the time from clients saying, so and so on Instagram or so and so on TikTok was saying this, and I get so upset, because these are people who have absolutely no idea what they're really talking about. They just happen to be an interested party, and they're trying to build their social media page, and they're actually causing harm potentially to people by their recommendations. So you actually have to differentiate yourself as a true expert, and not just an online expert, but you are a true expert. And I think that, again, that's another topic for another day, probably, because I could go on for an hour just about that. But so let me ask you, because I know people are interested in hearing, what are the types of clients that you are finding yourself working with these days, and maybe share a story or two about how you've been able to help.
So, unfortunately, it's people that have illnesses or Hashimoto's, or they're having unknown issues, gut issues. That's a huge issue right now. So it's across the board, and it's and how I help, obviously, is I go through each room and try to help them see and educate them on where they need to be more attentive. It's usually an eye opener, and it's so rewarding, because the first place I always go is laundry detergent. It's my number one thing, that we go there first, because you're sleeping in chemicals, you're wearing them all day, they're outgassing in your home. So laundry detergent is number one. And once I get them off of fragrance, and they get them aware of fragrance, what really is fragrance free, they always then, their eyes are really open to, wow, I didn't know how bad that was. And then they're aware of everything else around them. So that is pretty much my nugget that I use with them, because it's so powerful, and laundry detergent is so toxic, some of them out there. And so I start with them on that. And it's not always people that are sick. I have people that just follow me and or listen to a podcast and want more information, because they're concerned. A lot of mothers with little ones, especially mothers trying to get pregnant or ready to get pregnant, and they're starting to be more aware and of what they put in their body, because they know what they put in their body, the baby is going to be exposed to it as well. And we try to get to them before they have kids, because you really want to get those toxins out of your body before you even try to conceive. But so it's the younger generation I'm seeing really starting to pay more attention and looking at what they are doing to their bodies that could potentially harm their children.
Well, they seem to have a more inquisitive mind about it
They do.
because, again, I think that younger kids today have been raised in more of an environment where you can question things. You can look at something and say, I don't think that's right. I mean, instead of,
Mm-hmm.
when I grew up, we just kind of did what we did because that's how everybody did it. That's how we were taught. Again, I think it was different back then too, because we weren't exposed to as much anymore. And kids today, I think, are just immediately right out of the gate exposed to
Yeah.
more than we ever were. So it's probably just natural that they would also be more inquisitive about that. Um, so, and you had said earlier that you're working on, or you have like some product lines, or is it a supplement line you're doing?
No, it's
Yes,
I'm
okay, I see it back
I'm
there.
trying to reach it. I don't want my headset coming out. So what happened? I was always making my own cleaning supplies. My mother, again, with vinegar and water, and then I started getting into essential oils more because they have such amazing properties: antifungal, antiviral, and antibacterial, for that matter. So I started making my own all-purpose cleaner, and I would give it to people's presents, and then they would keep coming back to me like, "Okay, I can't use anything else but your product. Can I buy it from you?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to sell it to you." But then it got out of hand. Then somebody came to me and said, "You need to bottle this and sell it." And she encouraged me, and I found somebody in Buffalo that I gave them my recipes. Everything is in a glass, dark glass bottle, because that's how essential oils should be, not in plastic because it preserves them, and with the dark and the glass as well. You have to have it in glass. And I started making it, and then here I am. I've got my all, and it's got all it is organic vinegar, purified water, and 7 different essential oils
Hmm.
that all have amazing properties of, as I mentioned, antibacterial, antiviral, and I use it everywhere. I mean, counters to bathrooms to windows. People are like, "Well, it's got oils in it," but not so much where it's going to make streaks on your windows. And people are addicted to the smell, and because it's hard to explain. It's got some cinnamon in it, it's got some clove, it's got orange, it's got lemon, it's got raspberry, rosemary, I mean, and I just lost the last one, but eucalyptus. So yeah, so that's, and it comes in I have a little refill container, so I'm all about keeping the bottle, and then you refill it with this little container, and then you just add the vinegar, or you just add the water. So it's been interesting. It's been a fun. I really just started this whole business. It's called Tease Organics. It's on my website. It's been fun, and I have 3 room sprays too, for your bathroom, for your shower, for your hockey bag if you play hockey up in Wisconsin, because I know hockey is big
Oh
up
yeah.
there. And so for your locker, for shoes, it's just, they're nice smells. So I just wanted a few more lines. So where I'm taking it from here, I don't know. Maybe it'll become so big that we'll have it on your stores in Wisconsin.
Sounds fantastic, and of course, that'll all be on your website, and I'll link that in the show notes once this goes to a audio podcast. Um, we're kind of wrapping up here. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them out now. Otherwise, there may be some coming after the show, and I'll be happy to pass them along to you.
Sure.
So you've given us a lot of, I think, really easy, actionable ideas of what we can do in our home. And it obviously starts off with reading the labels and choosing materials that are not containing, again, fragrance, and whatever that is. We none of us really know. But what else? if you could give everybody kind of one parting thought of what they can do in their homes, and or just personal life to make things just a little bit easier on their chemical load.
First of all, I want to acknowledge Jay Watts because he just bought the product. So thank you, Jay. I saw that in the comments. So I'm sorry, what was your question? Something to make it easier?
Yeah, I mean, so if you give everybody one more nugget to say, here's how we can help reduce your chemical load and just make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, so easier and cheaper, okay?
Yeah.
You do not need 15 products to clean your house with. You don't even need T's Organics. If you want to even make your own, this is how we did it. Not we, because I'm only 60, but this is how they did it. My mother always said, we always made our own soap. Why do we have to spend all this money and all these plastic containers to bring in your home when you don't need all that? You need vinegar and water and soap. And so I think if people start looking back at how they did it when their parents were alive or grandparents, I look at that. I look at history, and I always look at history and see where we came from and how we got there. The chemical industry, has really built this industry of products that we have to use, and you don't have to. They want you to believe you need something for every single thing in your house. So it's consolidating. Go back to nature a little bit. Trust what Mother Nature has given us, and you will have a much less toxic home.
I love that. And I can certainly personally attest to this, because in the building industry, quite often, almost every single day, I'll get a customer calling and saying, well, my architect or my builder says we have to do this. We have to use a spray foam insulation because we have no other choice. Well, what did we do before spray foam insulation was invented? What did we do back in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 50s? Heck, humans have been around quite a long time. We've been occupying homes for quite a long time. There are ways to do things that maybe are a little more difficult, a little more time consuming, a little more clunky, but at the end of the day, they work really well, probably better than what technology. It's easier these days for the users of some of these things. The chemicals are supposed to improve our lives because it makes things take less time to do, but it doesn't necessarily improve our lives at all. I think it makes our lives far more difficult because we're dealing then with health issues on a very regular basis. So I totally agree with what you say there. You can do things in your home, whether it's cleaning materials, building materials, that harken back to where it was before we had access to all this technology that we don't really need.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, again, I really appreciate you adjusting your schedule to come on this week instead of last week. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. And
folks, if you want to get in touch with T, what is your website again, please?
thegreenlivinggurus.com.
And from there, you'll find not only her cleaning material, but you'll also find ways to access her podcast, consulting link. I mean, just everything you do is right on that website. So, folks, please reach out, and T will be able to help. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Anytime.
And good luck with your business. And who knows? Maybe we'll see T's Organics on our shelves one of these days.
Yay! I love Wisconsin, by the way. My stepson's a Badger.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, we all love snow, whether it's in Buffalo, New York, or Wisconsin.
That's right. I love it too. Give me the 4 seasons. I love it.
You got it. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.